Alright everyone, as people start tuning in, it's Katie from the Clark Museum, and we're going to be walking around Old Town today. It's nice and sunny out. We're going to go check out some of those historic buildings and awesome views. And we'll be starting right at 2 o'clock, so we'll just give people a couple minutes to log in. Yeah, should be pretty exciting. For those of you who have been to Old Town, you're probably pretty familiar with it, but I know that for a long time we haven't really been able to get out and about, so it'll be nice to tour around, learn something new about some of the great history that's kind of in the landscape here, learn some stories, see some nice views, maybe catch a few birds here and there. So we'll give people a minute or so to join us. It's weird here in the office. I have 3 clocks telling me 3 different times, so. And this video might be a little shorter than our typical hour-long ones today, so just kind of keep that in mind. And as always, this is Ask the Curator. I'm the interim director curator here at the museum. My name's Katie. If you have any questions throughout our little video today, feel free to put them in the comments. I should be able to see them as we're touring around. And I know a good bit about the history of Old Town architecture and things like that, but there's a chance there will be questions that I might not have the answer to, but that's okay. I can kind of direct you towards resources that might be able to get you the answers. Alright, so I'm actually going to put my phone down for a second so I can put my jacket on. I'm perpetually cold, so gotta be sure I don't freeze. I'm just gonna kind of situate you guys here. Which, that's not the best. Trying to use my desk drawer as a little stand. Alright, so we're gonna get moving, heading out to Old Town, check out the sights and sounds. Let me put my mask on really quick, because we gotta be safe. Okay. Here we go. Alright, going out to Old Town. Let's check it out. Let me lock this up. Actually, I'm going to grab my sunglasses. It does get very sunny. Alright, so just stick with me for a second. Alright. So hi everyone, I'm Katie. I'm the interim director curator at the Clark Museum. And today, for those of you who might just be tuning in, we're going to be touring around Old Town, checking out some of the buildings, learn a little bit about the history, and having a good time. It's really nice and sunny out today, so I'm excited to get to walk around, stretch my legs, check it out, and share it with you all. So here we go. Say hi, Jordan. Hi. This is Jordan. She works at the front desk. All right, we'll see you later. All right. So here we are outside the museum. So the open flags are up because the visitor center is open right now. You can go check out their fine wares, but the museum is closed. So let's start over here. And thank you for the compliment on the mask. My roommate made it. It's a pretty nice mask. So let's see, about 2 years ago, I think, there was the start of the Eureka Street Art Festival. This was one of the pieces. This was put together by Matt Beard. And if you look really close around the edges here, they actually spell out, I think, some of the comments that he received while he was putting this together. This painted sign was originally kind of a billboard of sorts for people to post flyers and things onto. So many of the comments were kind of in regards to that. There's also this great one over here, which we'll go zip over here real quick. And this is a mural by Reagan. He does a lot of the really flashy, bright murals around town. I think there's one over at the Jefferson Community Center, and he's working on one at the zoo right now. There used to be a tree here that kind of blocked it, but now the tree's gone, so you can see the whole thing. Really a beautiful mural. And there's another smaller one over here. I can't remember the name of the artist that did that one. Oh man, it's been a bit. It's been a couple of years, of course. All right, so let's go check it out. This is Cafe Nooner. They're now over in Henderson Center. So nice and sunny out today. My goodness. Almost don't need my wool coat. All right, so across the street real quick. So this is kind of a fun story. So of course, here's Ramon's, these two little kind of rooms right here. Up here, I think these are apartments or offices now. We had a lady come in once who had actually worked at the Bank of Eureka for a time. And she said that she and one of the other girls, they'd, walk around Old Town, during their lunch breaks or whatnot. And there would be women here, like sticking their legs out the window and stuff, because there were brothels above this shop. So that's kind of the funny thing about Eureka, is that many of the buildings that are 2 stories might have been brothels at the top. So just kind of a fun little thing. All right. Let's go check out here. Well, this is a fun little piece of history here. So this is actually not the name of what this store used to be. This was an advertisement for a type of shoes that this store used to sell. But when they installed these metal letters, they accidentally put the D backwards. So, and that's all like metal in the ground there. Pretty great. And then this building that has Los Bagels in it. An interesting thing about this building is that the parts that are painted blue here, those are actually all cast iron. Cast iron fronts. I can't really remember why they did that, but it's something a lot of people don't realize, is that it's cast iron. Alright, actually, let's go down this way. So right now we're on 2nd Street. 2nd and we were on E in front of the museum, so this is now 2nd between E and D. Some really nice buildings out here. This is the Romano Gabriel Sculpture Garden. It looks like there's green lilies serving food out there now, so we won't be able to head over there and take a closer look at it. But if you ever have a chance to learn about the history of Romano Gabriel, he was a local Italian man who cut all of these wooden sculptures for his yard, and many of them are political commentaries of things happening at the time. You see the, well, it's kind of hard to see here, but there's one that shows the Pope, which is kind of funny. Let's see. We got Humboldt herbals. Great tea selection. So this is a spot called Roy's. It used to be a restaurant and was also a club at a time. Word on the street is that there used to be this, sometimes Prohibition gangsters on the run would stay here. That's kind of a urban legend, I think. If anyone knows Roy, be sure to ask him. We're going to check out the Eagle House down here. So if you're ever looking for a good tour of Old Town, there's one called the Old Town Ghost and History Tours, I believe. It's these two people run it together, Alex and, oh goodness, I can't remember the guy's name. But they do research on different spooky history stories for local areas. And try to match them up with ghost stories that people have in some of these different historic buildings. It's a really well done tour. So this is the Eagle House. And something interesting about the Eagle House is that this corner piece was actually added on. So originally it was this part of the building and this part of the building were connected. But then the owners wanted to expand the building, and this was quite a while back, back when Eureka was still kind of in its gold rush days. So what they did was they took this part of the building, which was over here, and scooted it over here, and then built this inner part. There's a really nice ballroom in there. There's, of course, this restaurant here, and there's a little bar on the side of it. Looks like the restaurant's open, but not sure about the bar. But it's a beautiful building. I've always wanted to stay there. They have some really great rooms and things. And we got some more local art here. We'll take a little slow walk past these. This is probably one of my favorite ones. A painting of a person painting. This is a really nice one too. Redwoods at Sunset, Joan Dunning. And these were also put up during that Eureka Street Art Festival, which is happening this year. It's going to be happening over in Henderson Center in August. All right. Heading back up 2nd Street here. We'll go check out the Old Town Plaza area. Yeah, one of the great things about the museum being right here in Old Town is that if I need to get up and just stretch my legs, get away from the computer for a little bit, it's pretty easy to. There's lots of things to see around here. And usually in the summertime there's music and festivals and all kinds of crazy things going on. But not so this year. But at least the weather's nice. We got that going for us. Bark, bark, bark is a little dog. All right. Oh. Got some poetry.
And I told him Tyrone's a really good guy.
And something cool about Old Town is that there are a lot of these kind of bronze plaques around. Let me point this one out real quick. Like this one. Now, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about this building in particular, but these little plaques are all around Old Town. kind of giving you a little bit of an idea of what some of these buildings were originally used for. And so Dana asks, is the poetry always there, or is that a new thing? That is a new thing. I think recently, within the last maybe week or so, those went up. And I think that's being conducted by the company the city hired to do marketing for them. It's a group called Eddie Alexander Booklegger. Great used bookstore. I'm so bummed that we can't go in there and wander around. It's very eccentric. Always got what you're looking for. Alright, so it looks like we got some city people doing some landscaping around here. But look at those flower baskets. Those are awesome. Very pretty. Whoa, why can't I zoom out? There we go. All right. So we're gonna cross the street. This is probably one of my favorite buildings just because of the appearance. Eureka Books. This was a bar at one point. There was actually a famous shooting here where one of the owners shot the other owner back when it was a bar and then turned himself in soon thereafter. But it's a really beautiful building. They do a really good job on the upkeep. And so we're lucky to have a pretty well-preserved old town because of work that was done in the 70s. So there was a lot of this kind of urban renewal stuff going on. People were interested in taking older downtown areas and updating them, and that included tearing down buildings, changing layouts, things like that. And when that kind of movement came to Eureka, there was a group of people that wanted to preserve the older buildings. This is kind of the same time period that the Carson Mansion was going up for sale, that kind of thing. So there were people that came together to document all these different buildings, and that's something that you can see now called the Green Book. That was put together by Eureka Heritage. They got their start around that time. And it was this movement to, rather than totally demolish Old Town, to preserve it and use it as kind of a tourist destination, which has worked pretty darn well. Alright, we're going to move a little quick because there's someone doing some weed whacking over here, so stick with me for a second. We got a carriage right here. Yeehaw! So we're going to go over here real quick. So this is a fun building. This is called the Odd Fellows building. I've heard it referred to by a different name, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now. But this was built to house stores down here on the first floor, and then have Odd Fellows meetings up here on that second floor. And the Odd Fellows are a fraternal organization that was super, super popular in Old Town, or in Eureka in Humboldt County. So when this building was built and when it was officially opened, something like 3,000 people showed up, and it was the largest gathering of people in Humboldt County to that point in time. I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head now. I didn't do the research on that. But imagine that, 3,000 people showing up around the turn of the century when population here was pretty darn low. That's pretty impressive. So we'll head over this way. Old Town carriage, you can ride around in a horse carriage, or just come over here and hang out with the horse.
The best team in this hemisphere generally has been Mexico for many years. And they're always get out of the first round in the World Cup, get to the round of 16, and if they get against any form
Super nice out today. I'm almost too warm in my wool coat, which is basically unheard of. All right, so we got the Oberon here. So this is probably one of my favorite restaurants in Old Town. Not only do they have tasty food, but it also has a great story. The Oberon used to be a bar, and it of course still is. But there was a point in time, and the little bronze plaque over here will tell you the story. The son of the guy who owned Pacific Lumber Company, I believe was the name, once got in a bar fight with Jack London at this very bar. There's a letter of a guy who witnessed it hanging in the back of the restaurant. You can go check it out. They're closed right now, but when they reopen. Pretty fun little story, you can imagine that. Jack London was a pretty staunch socialist, and the son of the owner of Pacific Lumber was not. You can imagine how that went over. All right, so over here's the Vance Hotel. Let me see if I can cross the street safely so you can see the actual building. All right. So, Dana's asking who won the bar fight. It was a tie. Both men fought until they couldn't fight anymore, and then they were both taken to the hospital. So, there you go. Happy ending, maybe? So this is the Vance. So as its title says, Hotel Vance, this was once a hotel. So it was originally built as this 2-story kind of building. And then there was a fire, I believe, on the roof at one point, which the roof, of course, was here. And since there was a bunch of damage and they were going to repair it anyway, they said, let's add 2 extra stories, so they did. Now it's a bunch of offices, there's some stores down here. But the fun thing about this building is that I think it's like the second largest, basically completely wooden structure in California. The first, of course, is the Hotel del Coronado down in San Diego. This was also one of the first buildings to have electricity in Eureka. That was because the Vance Mill was owned by Mr. Vance, of course, and he built a power generation plant that would provide electricity to his mill. And why would a mill need electricity, might you say? But the mills, when they operated at night, of course, they had to burn oil to, keep the lights on. But then there was all kinds of flammable sawdust around, so it was really easy for these mills to go up in flames. And they frequently went up in flames and were rebuilt. So, of course, it was in Vance's best interest to build an electrical generating plant, power his mill, and then I think he put up some street lights as well, like these street lights, not like the red light, green light. But anyway, this is a beautiful building. It's been restored and is super gorgeous. Great little building. All right, so down here, this is the state of California owns this building. It's kind of their fish and wildlife setup. Oh, I forgot to mention too, in the Hotel Vance, before we totally walk away, is that there's a little cafe in there called Bandit. I just had lunch there. Super tasty, ridiculously tasty. If you like sandwiches with lots of things on them and all kinds of flavors, that is yo place. Or if you like chocolate chip cookies, that is also a great place. So this is the Boone Building, or Boona, as some people call it. Boone, Boona, Booner. It's got all kinds of different pronunciations. So this, of course, kind of the same setup. It's got these shops, and then up top there are, I think these are mostly offices. I don't think there's any apartments in this building. But many of these little accents up kind of near the top are also cast iron, which is kind of interesting. You'd think in a place that's so close to the ocean, you might not want to put cast iron, but if it works, it works. This is one of the little kind of sidewalk parks or pocket parks that have been put in the last couple of years. Usually they have, when Humboldt Bay Provisions is open, they'll have little boat flags on there, which is pretty fun. So, good little nice sunny spot to sit and eat lunch. All right. So So I'm kind of taking it along my little walking route here in Old Town.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm just saying. If you can't find
All right. Great little thrift shop here. You can see part of the back of the Carson Block here. All those bricks, even got some plants growing up top. You can kind of see those wooden beams coming out the side, or not coming out the side, but kind of on the side of the building there. Those are probably for earthquake reinforcements. And we'll go and check out the front part of that too. And of course from here you can see that's the old courthouse. It's got the post office in it. That's Lost Coast Brewery, which looks very boxy from the back, but it's got a really great facade on the front. Courthouse, awesome thrift shop. All right, rounding the corner here. This is a good little building. It still has some of its original stained glass up top here. This old Mac. Don't see those anymore. The Carson Block. So some people call this the Carson Block building, or the Carson building, or the Carson Block. All of those titles are mostly accurate, although it should actually be called the Carson Block or the Carson building, not the Carson Block building. It's kind of reiterative. But anyway, these are some of the tiles. And this building has a really fascinating history in terms of its restoration. So, well, let's talk a little bit about the history. So, this building, get kind of some other glances at it. So this building, of course, was built by, or was financed by William Carson of Carson Mansion fame. And he commissioned this building for a couple different things. He needed offices, needed some shops here in Old Town, but he also thought that Eureka could use a bit more culture. So there's actually an opera theater in this building. Right now it's currently inaccessible. It was modified in more recent years for storage, so now it's kind of inaccessible. And when the building was restored, what was that, 5-6 years ago? 7 years ago, when the building was restored, they ended up not having enough money to restore the theater at the same time. So they restored the exterior of the building, the interior of the building, and then hung onto the theater for later. And that theater is actually how Opera Alley got its name, Opera Alley, because that was the alleyway that was next to the Opera House. And so at one point in time, one of the owners of this building decided to cover the outside with stucco, change the paint color. It was kind of this tannish, pinkish, salmonish color. Just completely removing many of the historic features of it. I believe this turret might have actually been removed, or part of it was removed. And it looked very, very different from how it looks now. Here's the plaque, of course. And there is a plaque inside the building too that says which office was Carson's. And I want to say it was one of these ones in the turret over here, because I would imagine it would be over here because of course Carson's Mills were kind of over that way. But I remember being surprised that they were over here. So I'm pretty sure they're over here. And around Christmas time, one of these offices actually hosts a Christmas tree that lights up at night, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so this is a really gorgeous building. And the restoration work on it is incredible. I believe the North Coast Journal did a pretty good piece on this when it was being restored and all the work that went into it. I wish we could walk inside, but I think it's closed unless you work there, so not today. Oh, so this is just my type. This is one of my favorite Old Town stores. Lynn, the lady who owns it, is super rad. She's a great lady. I highly recommend checking it out. They just moved to this larger room, and you can see her do some printing sometimes on her printing press right here in the window. All right. All right, gotta fix my mask real quick. Oh, I just got hit by something. Okay. Yeah, so let's cruise down here real quick. So of course, these are some of the older brick buildings in Old Town. You can really see that really fabulous texture on the walls. Pretty incredible. Do 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 do. Do do do. This is another piece from that street art festival that was all over Old Town. This is a really incredible one. And this is all done with spray paint. Pretty incredible. Sometimes in the afternoons, you can walk by this kind of alley area and it just smells like super strong coffee. The Humboldt Bay Coffee Company does roast their coffee here, so you can get your super fresh coffee. Here's another mural. This is a really nice one. Lots of colors. Really pretty. That's kind of the cool thing about Eureka, is that there's murals all over the place, and they keep being added. And it's kind of becoming part of our local history, you would say. Haha! Pretty impressive brickwork. Lots and lots of bricks. Alright. One of the back entrances to one of the stores. I actually don't know what time it is, so hopefully I am keeping on track. Alright, so let's go over here real quick. That's a fun fact. This building used to be a pharmacy. I really like that corner turret. It's really pretty. It's a really interesting shape. You don't really see that. You see circles a lot, but not this kind of oval, rectangle, square kind of shape. Alright. Let's go check out the waterfront. Since the weather is so nice. Yeah, and that's something else I like about Old Town too, is that many of the owners take a lot of pride in their buildings and take really good care of them. And you can tell they're very beautiful buildings. Alright. Cafe Waterfront, I really like their building. We'll see the front of it just in a little bit here. Alright. Across the street. Alright. Gorgeous building, right? That's kind of the thing the Victorians really had a knack for, is taking all this really detailed, ornate work and really highlighting it with different colors, different shades. I once had a friend of mine that had a friend that lived in kind of this corner block building, and they had a 4th of July event where they went and watched the fireworks from the roof of the building, and that was something else. All right. Heading to the waterfront. If you're looking for good ice cream, living the dream, definitely the spot. We're open 3 to 7. My main recommendation is the lavender ice cream. They also have tasty cookies. Let's head over here. So this is known as Coast Guard Plaza. Many people don't know that Eureka is considered a Coast Guard town. We do have a Coast Guard station on the bay. Humboldt Bay Life Saving Station is what it's called. So this plaza is kind of to recognize the fact that we're a Coast Guard city. There's their Coast Guard ship right there. All kinds of great boats in this bay. So there's a couple of boats in particular I want to highlight. Also, check out the Carson Mansion over there. Right there. There we go. Yep, and we could actually walk over there, but it's kind of 20 minutes of hustling to get over there. So, here's the bay. It's really nice out today. Wow. Only a little bit of wind. Not too many birds flying around. Yeah, if you enjoy birding, but don't want to go too far, this is the place. So a couple things. Let's see. So this first boat here is called the Coral Sea, and that's Humboldt State's research vessel. Fun fact, before it was a research vessel, it was a drug running boat around the Florida area. But then it was confiscated and turned into a research vessel. And I think Humboldt State's probably one of the only, if not the only, university in California that allows its undergrads to go on research expeditions on said boat. Many other places you have to be a grad student and doing some kind of research to do so. So it's a pretty special little inclusion there. And then this double-masted boat right here. I've heard a couple of urban legend stories kind of about the thing. And so it was a guy who built it, and I believe it went on an expedition to Antarctica. I think it was Antarctica. And then it came back, and then the Coast Guard rules changed, and the hull is too narrow, so it can't actually go sailing anymore. So now it sits here in the docks. If anyone has more information on that, feel free to share. That's kind of the story I've heard about it. It's moved around a couple times since I've been here. Sometimes it's on this side, sometimes it's on that side, so I don't really know what the dealio is with that. Oh, so nice out. Got some little wind in the grasses. And so Dana had a question, was the entire building a pharmacy or just the bottom story? I would guess it was just the bottom story for that corner pharmacy there. So it's pretty common. A lot of the times the first story would be a business, and the second story might be a apartment or house of ill repute, depending on who you talk to. And this of course is Woodley Island. It's a great little restaurant out there. And of course all these boats. And there's the fisherman statue, but he's kind of behind all these boats here, so you can't really see him. And then this other island that has a couple of these houses on it, that is what was kind of formerly known as Indian Island, also known as Tillawat. A couple houses out there. And then that used to be a wood pulp mill, and it still, I believe, still kind of is, out there in Samoa. Really nice day out. I just want to come sit out here and hang out for the day. Let's do a little bit of walking, going this way. So of course, usually during the summertime, the Humboldt Bay Maritime Museum usually has their fabulous ship, the Mataket, doing little cruises around the bay. I remember I could hear the little whistle horn kind of thing they use. I could hear it all the way in the museum when I'm in the office. Usually hear it a couple times a day. Know that the Matikit's casting off. The Matikit was originally a ferry that would go from here in Eureka out to Samoa before the bridges, which are one's over here, one's over there. Before the bridges were built, there was the Matikit and a whole bunch of other boats that would go and take workers out to Samoa to work for the day. The Matikit is the only one that's left, and it's been converted into a little, sorry, I gotta plug my phone in, it's dying. Turn it into kind of a little tourist touring around vessel. And they do a lot of great tours on it. It's really unfortunate they're not doing them this year, but I totally get why. Hang on, sorry, just gotta issues with using mobile technology. Okay, there we go. There we go, okay. So anyway, I get why they're not doing it this year, but usually when they do their little tours around, they have a wildlife watching tour, so you can go and check out a lot of the birds on the bay. They have a history tour where they talk about the history of the bay. They have one where it's just they have their little bar open and you can have drinks and just kind of float around on the bay. And they take kids on field trips and all kinds of stuff. And it's a great little boat. You can rent it out for private events. We had our volunteer appreciation event on the Matikit last year. Yeah, I think it was last year. That was a heck of a lot of fun. The Matikit has the smallest licensed bar in California. It is teeny tiny, but tasty. Anyway, all right. I could hang out here all day, but I should probably start getting you guys back. Let's start heading back to the museum, although I could hang out here all day. Be sure to come out and visit if you haven't in a while. It's very nice out, but bring a coat. It is a little windy. All right, back to the museum. Another little fun fact, this building here is the oldest one still standing in Eureka. It was Boone's or Booner's first little general store. Supposedly it is haunted, but it's the oldest standing building in Eureka. Got some pigeons eating some bugs and grass. All right. And this Jansen building was, I believe, one of the first, if not the first, fireproof building in Eureka. It has metal shutters, of course, that are now welded open, but usually would be able to close. Where if, for instance, there was a fire, which was pretty common in these kind of gold rushy areas, if there was a fire in surrounding buildings, they could close the metal shutters and protect the building and hopefully its contents from being burned down. The metal shutters are still there, but they're welded open, so they can't be used anymore. And of course the building's been retrofitted with sprinklers and all that good stuff. And there's an apartment up top. There's the Boone General Store. So a couple comments we got. One says, "Hi Katie, pretty day up there." Yes, it is a gorgeous day up here. We're very lucky for that. It's been very cloudy recently. Got some train tracks right here. The train used to go right here on First Street through Old Town. At certain summertime events, the Timber Heritage Association brings out their little speeder cars, and you can ride around on the rails of Old Town. I still haven't done that. I was planning on doing it this year, but COVID. So, next year. Another comment says, "I would pay to take your walking tour when I'm there next." Oh, thanks. Thanks, Mrs. Baker. I really appreciate it. There was one point in time where walking tours were possibly going to be a thing, but that's going to have to hold out for a bit. The city usually hosts walking tours around Old Town in the summertime. Not this year. All right. Here we are, 2nd and E. Kind of doing a little loop around. All the trees are all nice and green. Lots of good shady spots. Also, I've had lots of people ask what's going on with the booklegger. You'll notice they have all this wood on their walls. Those used to be windows. I think they're just putting a wall in. So someone asked me if someone had broken all their windows, and I said, oh, I hope not. Gabriel's, very tasty food. Here's our Opera Alley and the rest of Opera Alley. And here we are getting back to the museum. We put my mask on since I'm going indoors. All right. Here we are. All right. Here we are back at the museum. Good to be home. All right, everyone. So, we'll use the, whoops, I locked myself out. Forgot about that. So I think we'll use the last couple minutes here to answer some questions. If you guys have any questions that came up either during the tour or just in general that you might have thought of, we can go ahead and answer those. Let me put my phone down real quick so I can see you all. There we go. Close this. Whew, now it's kind of toasty. Okay. So that was kind of a quick little dash around Old Town. Only a brief snippet of the area's history. But I hope you guys might have learned something new, and I hope you had a good time. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments there. So let's see, so what's your favorite building in Old Town? Appearance-wise, history-wise, doesn't really matter. Personally, I really like the Vance. I think it's a gorgeous building on the outside. Should have walked in because the inside is also very nice. That's probably one of my favorites. I also like the Carson Block mostly because of the theater. So we see, next time maybe you can do the Carson Mansion, Carter House, etc. end of Old Town tour. That could be good. Yeah, if you've been around Old Town, so the part we walked through was kind of the heart of Old Town. And there's another part, that's the Carson Mansion area. So the Carson Mansion's about a 20-minute walk-ish from here in Old Town. But over there, there's a really nice collection of some really great Victorian homes. Of course, the Carson Mansion, which is the big greenhouse that everyone knows about. But there's also things like the Pink Lady, which was also built by a member of the Carson family, or was built for a member of the Carson family, more like it. The Carter House, which was also mentioned by Dana, is a big yellow house, yellow and orange, I want to say. Interesting fact, that home was not actually originally built here in Eureka. So here's kind of the thing. So the plans for that building were drawn up by the same guy who built the Carson Mansion. But those plans were found, I believe, they were found in like an antique shop. And the guy who found it said, I want to build this house. And this was late 90s, I want to say, 80s maybe. So the plans for that house were for a home that was originally built in San Francisco, but then was destroyed in the 1906 earthquake. So somehow the plans antique shop, and the guy who built the Carter house bought the plans and then built the house. And it's now used as a bed and breakfast. The building that's like kitty corner to it, that's got like a restaurant in it, and that was also built in a similar fashion, which is pretty cool. There's also a whole row of Victorian homes over there that kind of look very similar, that are all painted white. Those are all over there. The library kind of over by there. The Eureka Library is actually a very gorgeous building. It's more recent construction, but it's got these awesome windows overlooking the bay. I really like it. It's a really nice building. Good reading. Although sometimes I get distracted by the birds and then I end up just looking at the birds instead of reading. Whoops. But yeah, those buildings are really great to go check out as well. So if you're here in Old Town and you're looking for a walking thing to do, just take 2nd Street all the way to the end and you'll run Mansion. Let's see. Yeah. So, checking around Old Town. Definitely do think about coming out to Old Town. Since the weather's so nice, particularly.